friends, welcome to another episode of Study Less with Marco. Okay, today we're going to be looking at the integument system. Okay, integument system is made up of the skin and its appendages. Okay, the appendages are hair, exocrine gland, and nails. Okay, but I'm not going to be looking at the appendages this class. I'm going to focus on the skin. Remember, we started with in anatomy. We started with how anatomy can be studied, and then I moved to layers of the body. Then I moved to membrane. I said the membrane is divided into two: epithelial membrane and connective membrane. And I subdivided the epithelial membrane into cutaneous membrane, mucous membrane, and serous membrane. So skin itself is made up of cutaneous membrane. So that's what we want to look at. And also this topic is a borderline between physiology and anatomy. So that's why most of the time you see that when you want to treat integument system, they always treat it based on physiology and anatomy. Okay, but then I would be turning much towards anatomy, but there's still physiology in this slide. So this PowerPoint contains physiology. So I would know how to do them. I will not have to do much when I'm doing physiology of integument system again. Okay, so let's go into this class quickly. As I said, outer epidermis, the skin is a component of cutaneous membrane, which is made up of outer epidermis. The skin is made up of outer epidermis, inner dermis, and then we have hypodermis too. Okay, now the outer epidermis is made up of keratinized epithelial cell. Okay, inner dermis is made up of dense connective tissue, while hypodermis is made up of loose connective tissue and also adipose tissue. But I'm still going to come to that later. So now the appendages that I said earlier are nails, hair follicle, sebaceous gland, and ectoplasm muscle. There's also sweat gland there. Okay. Peculiarity of the skin. 1. It is the largest human organ, which is something that we need to know. It is the largest human organ. The skin is the largest human organ. I don't need to explain that one. Okay, skin is made up of two layers, which are epidermis and dermis. Now we need to know this. I need to point this out quickly now. Hypodermis is not part of the skin layer. Okay, but we always study it together. In the former classification, it was part of this layer of skin. They thought it was part of the layer of the skin, but later in this recent classification now, it's not even called hypodermis. Another name for hypodermis is subcutaneous tissue. Okay, in this classification, it's not even called hypodermis anymore. They have now grouped it under fascia. We are going to still deal with fascia. We have three types of fascia. We have superficial fascia, deep fascia, we have visceral fascia. So now hypodermis now is classified as superficial fascia. So it's now a different classification. So but we study it together. We still retain the way we study it. So it's now called superficial fascia. You need to understand that point. Okay, so epidermis, as I said earlier, also is made up of keratinized epithelium cells, while dermis is made up of deep connective tissue. I was going to talk about what this cells is. Now you need to notice this aspect too. Epidermis is made up of layers of cells, not tissue. The cells do not aggregate to form tissue. Now let me repeat again. The cells of epidermis do not aggregate to form tissue, but dermis is made up of connective tissue. So you have to note this. Epidermis is made up of keratinized epithelium cells, not tissue. Now it's layers of cells, while dermis is made up of what? Connective tissue. The cells have aggregated to form what? Tissue. Okay, the outer layer is made up of dead cells. The third point, the outer layer is made of dead cell. That is just because of the pigment produced, which is known as keratin, the protein pigment keratin. Okay, that kill the cells. Okay, so and the fourth thing is that it has a skin tone, because the body has a skin tone. Okay, and that is responsible for the toughness. And the skin tone is made up of, because the body is made up of collagen fibers and elastin fibers. Okay, so that's the fiber is made up of, and it's made up of water too. Collagen fiber, elastin fiber, and water. I'll just tell you what those three things do in the body. Okay, now the fifth one is it has tension line that may indicate where and how to cut the skin so as to avoid keloid. Okay, well, I think I should have a diagram for keloid. Okay, yeah, this is a keloid. Okay, because in this case, this person has not been cut well. In this, you are not supposed to cut the body. As a doctor, you are not supposed to cut the body like this. This is a wrong way of cutting body. Okay, because the body has been mapped out already. So that's what we called the Langerhans line or the tension line that has been mapped out. Look at it. Let me show you something. This is a wrong way of cutting the person. The person has been cut wrongly here. Let me show you the mapping. Okay. Now see, in this aspect, the body is supposed to be cut horizontally. You can see that's a mistake by the surgeon there to cut the person. Now, if I want to cut this person, you are supposed to cut based on this line. If you don't cut based on this line, you have keloid. You can see this person is supposed to be cut like this, horizontally like this, horizontally like this. You can see, but that was a mistake by the surgeon or by the person that cut the person. I don't think the person is a surgeon. If he's a surgeon, he will not make such mistakes. So you are supposed to cut horizontally, but look at this person. The person was, they cut this person vertically. So they cut the person. If you cut the person not the way, you also cut in the direction of the lines, because the line has been mapped out. If you don't cut the person well, this skeleton form, you can see this skeleton form based on the fact that this person was not cut well. Okay, so that's an application of anatomy. That's just simple knowledge of anatomy can see what they cost to this young lady. So now we have tension line that may indicate where and how to cut. I think you know that, you have seen that now. Okay, another thing is, this point is with the skin. We can use rule of 9 to know the degree of burning in patient. You can use rule of 9 to know the degree of burning. Okay, rule of 9 is like we are dividing the body into 9, 9, 9, 9. Okay, let me just show you. This is the rule of 9. Okay, the body is divided. This aspect of burning. So we have, you know, the type of burning we have. They are first grade, second grade, and all that. So it depends on how the body is affected. Okay, so this, you can see this is the arm. Okay, the hand too has its own too. This is the back. So it has been mapped out. The body has been mapped out. So if somebody is burnt like this, if they can calculate that, oh, what percentage of burning does this person have? If is it first grade burning, is it second grade, is it fourth, is it, so there are some grade of burning that may be fatal. Okay, so that's why this body has been mapped out. For children, it's very different from children. For children, I think it's different. This for a child is different from that of a full-grown adult. So let's just go back to our class now. Okay, I've seen the rule of 9. Now, what's the function of the skin? We have the function as protection. The skin protects the body from, now protection protects the body from A, microorganism, B, water loss, C, ultraviolet radiation, and D, abrasion. Arrange this thing accordingly so that when you want to recall, it will be very easy for you to recall. The skin is, the first function is protection. One, you know, it's dead cells. Okay, dead cells, I said earlier, it does not allow permit anything to enter because it's dead actually. So it protects the body from microorganisms, water loss, and ultraviolet radiation. Melanin in our body is one that helps in ultraviolet radiation. I'm also going to talk about that. And also abrasion. When you abrasion is like you are rubbing your body. Imagine rubbing your body. It's supposed to affect your vessel or your nerves, which is not going to be good. But the skin is one that is rubbed off instead of your vessel or your nerves. So it protects you. That's the four aspect of protection. The another one is sensation by receptor and nerve present. We are able to feel cold. We are able to feel pain and touch based on the fact that the skin is very sensitive. Okay, there are part of the skin that is more sensitive than the other. Okay, another thing, synthesis of vitamin D. Based on the ultraviolet, our body can synthesize vitamin D. Okay, the fourth one is thermoregulation. Okay, vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Okay, and by sweat gland. Vasoconstriction, when you are cold, your arterioles constrict, and when you are hot, your arteries or arteriole they what dilate. Sweat gland, when you are feeling heat, your body starts giving out sweat, and which cool your body. Another thing is storage of lipid. The body store lipid, and which also conserve heat. Another thing is containment of body structure. The body contain is the most external, which contain your body structure. It also helps in immune response. There is stratum spinosuüm. It's one that helps in immune response. I'm just going to treat that. Now we have portals in the body. Portals, that means opening. The skin has opening, which are what? The mouth is an opening, the nostril is an opening, the ureter canal is an opening, the vanagia canal is also what? An opening. Your anus is an opening. So we have opening in the body. So Now let's go to layers of skin proper. Now moving to the layers of skin, the skin is made up of epidermis and dermis, as you can see. The epidermis is made up of stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, stratified because it exists in layers. Okay, it exists in layers. Why squamous? Because it's flat. Okay, and it is epithelium because it lines the outermost part of the body. Okay, so it's made of stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, you have to know the names. You have to know the reason for the name. Stratified because when something is stratified, is in layers. Squamous because it's flat, and epithelium because it lines the outside of the body. Remember, I said when I was treating the epithelium, the function of epithelium cells, I said mucous, one of the mucous line the outside of the body. So epithelium, most of the epithelium line the outside of what? The body. Some epithelium line the inside anyway. Like I said, example of it is cells membrane, but mostly epithelium lines the outermost part of the body. Okay, the epidermis developed from the ectoderm, unlike dermis that developed from the mesoderm. You have to know this point. Epidermis developed from ectoderm, dermis from mesoderm. E and E. Epidermis, ectoderm, dermis, mesoderm. Okay. Also, epidermis is avascular. Does not contain veins, artery, and lymphatics. Does not contain it. So, and it has to receive nutrient anyway for it to be sustained. So it's only receiving nutrient and oxygen that goes into it from what? The dermis is avascular. Okay. So it does not have vein, artery, or what? Lymphatics. It's something that you need to understand. Okay, because and it's very, very important here. Just like your cartilage, you know, cartilage is also avascular. So your epidermis is avascular. Okay. Now another thing is that it have epidermal ridges. Okay, the epidermis have epidermal ridges which interlock with what? The dermal papillary. Now epidermis have dermal ridges. It has epidermal ridges. Okay, I'm still going to talk about this when we are dealing with the stratum. Okay, now the 4 points is that first thing is that the nature of the stratified squamous epithelia. Second is what? It developed from the ectoderm, and the dermis developed from what? The mesoderm. Okay, epidermis is what? Avascular, and the last one is that it has what? Epidermal ridges. So let's move to the epidermis, how it's subdivided. Okay, this one I'm going to label on this. Now epidermis is subdivided into 4 divisions. Now we have 2 types of skin. We have thick skin and we have thin skin. Okay, thick skin has 5 divisions. Thick skin has what? 5 divisions of the arrangement of the cell. The cells layer are 5 in thick skin, while in thick skin the cell layers are 4. Now what's a thick skin? Thick skin example is the palm of my hand is a thick skin. The sole of my feet is a thick skin. Okay, some people say the scalp of the head too is a thick skin. Okay, but that's the 2 major ones I want to talk about. The palm and the sole, they are thick skin. Okay, every other part of the body are thin. Okay, my dorsum, okay, is thin. Okay, my other parts are thin. So thick skin has 5 layers of cells, while thin skin has 4. But I'll just mention the 5, and I'll point out the one that is in thick skin and that is not in what? In thin skin. I'll point out the one that is what? In thin skin, but not in what? In thick skin. So now the first one from the superficial, I'm moving from the external now. I'm moving from here down to the last layer of cells. This outermost one is known as what? It's known as stratum cornea. Now the layers are called stratum, which you need to understand. The layers are called stratum. Okay, so this one is made up of stratum cornea. The outermost part is what? Stratum cornea. Okay, and after that, when we move little bit deeper, we will see a clear layer. Okay, which is known as stratum lucidium. Okay, after that we will see a layer that has something like grain. When you look at it, when you're viewing through microscope, you look at it, has something like grain, like grains of stuff. You call it what? Stratum granulosum. This M and this S. Sorry for the mistake. And the D, after that stratum granulosum, we move in. We have another. When we view through microscope, we have another one that look like spine too. They look at spine. We will call that one stratum spinosum. And lastly, we are now see, when you look at the microscope, you see the one that they are germinating, they are producing, the mitotic division is happening. This one is what? Stratum basale or stratum basale or stratum germinativum. Now you need to know this. First one, you see a dead cell when you are looking at view microscope. When you view this skin through microscope, first one you see a dead cell, which is what? Stratum cornea, they are dead. Second one, you see a clear structure, which is what? Stratum lucidium. Going deeper now. After seeing the dead cell, you see a clear structure, that's stratum lucidium, very clear and like glossy. Now after that, you see something that look like grain, that's stratum granulosum. After that, you see something that look like spine, that's stratum spinosuüm. And the other one is stratum germinativum. You see cells that are dividing. So that's how you can classify it. You don't just need to just know it by name alone. When you view through microscope, because when you are doing histology, you see all these things through microscope, and you should be able to differentiate between which one is stratum cornea, which one is lucidium. And as I told you, dead one cornea, very glossy and transparent lucidium. Later, you see something like grain, granulosum, something like spine, spinosuüm, and something like germinating, and germinating, that's what germinativum or what stratum basale. Okay, now epidermis, as a division, the division are called stratum. You can see here, they're called stratum. Yeah, so it's just a name given to the layers. So it's now, I said it contains 4 layers in the skin. I've said this, 4 layers in the skin and 5 in thick. I will name it from deep to superficial for your understanding, for you to understand it better. Now, for you to understand it now, I need to name it from deep to superficial. Now we are moving from the germination. The thing is, now this is how we say it. The thing is like a cell that is moving from the inside to the outside. When it's inside, it's alive, germinating, dividing. Before you go to the outside, it will have died. So that's why I'm moving from inside to outside, from the deepest, from deep to superficial. Deep, it's still living. So it should be going upward until it dies. That's why we want to start from the deep. Now, the deep structure is stratum basale, or some people call it stratum basale. It is the innermost layer of the epidermis. It attached to the dermis via basement membrane, and it is mostly made up of keratinocytes. Okay, the epithelium and connective tissue, they cannot join together. The thing that join together is called basement membrane. Basement membrane always join epithelium tissue and connective tissue together. Okay, because epidermis is made up of epithelium and dermis is made up of connective tissue, so they are joined together by what? By the same basement membrane. Okay, so and basement basal, the cells there are 3 cells actually. I'm going to talk about those cells that are in stratum basale, but finish. There are 3 cells. Well, the major cells there is keratinocytes. We still have melanocytes too. There are 3 cells there. But the major one there is what? Keratinocytes. And the cell keratinocytes, they produce what? Keratin as a pigment. Melanocytes produce melanin. Okay. So cell that produce keratin, it is also made up of melanocytes. Okay. Cell that produce melanin. So the dominant cells in stratum basale is what? Is granulocytes. Okay. Followed by melanocytes. Okay, keratin and melanin are protein. Why keratin makes skin tough? Melanin gives its characteristic color. It gives its pigmental color and protect the skin from UV light. Now, I'm just trying to differentiate between keratin and melanin. Keratin makes things tough because it contains collagen fibers, while melanin, it gives the skin pigment. Okay, that's the reason why you are dark, you are light, based on the pigment produced. Now, you need to note this. I want to point out the melanocytes of the body, they are the same. Melanocyte of a white person and a black person are the same. Okay, but the melanosome, okay, or the melanin produced are different. Now note this again, let me say it again. Melanocytes of a white man and a black man is the same, but the melanosome and melanin are different. So as I said, all other layers are made from this stratum basale. All other layers, they are from stratum basale, which is something that you need to understand. All other layers are from this, because stratum basale is the one that is a cell in stratum basale that is moving upward. So all other layers are from stratum basale. Okay, now so let's just quickly move to, okay, all other layers are generated from stratum basale, because that means cells here are well and alive and are going through mitosis. That means they are just dividing and producing another layers of cells. So in the stratum basale, cells are dividing and producing layer of cells, and the cells are moving upward. It takes 7 days to 10 days for cells to move from basale to the most external, which is stratum corneum. It takes 7 to 10 days for it to move. So the cells are moving upward. So that means all other layers cells, all other layers are made up of from what? Stratum basale. That's what I'm trying to say there. So now, that's what I'm trying to say here. Now let's now talk about the basal layer, the stratum basale. Now I gave 6 points. One, I said it's made up of basal cells and it's made up of germinative cells. So basal cell is the same thing as germinative cells. That we call it stratum basale or stratum germinativa. So because we are talking about is germinating, okay. So it's made up of germinative cells that are germinating, that are dividing, that are producing new cells all the time. So the cells now move from the basale to spinosum, from spinosum to granulosum to lucidium, from lucidium then finally to cornea, where it takes like 7 to 10 days. At the cornea, the cell died. Okay, after 2 weeks, our cell at the cornea dies after 2 weeks mostly. So and then another cell needs to replace it. So that's just how it goes. Now, it's attached to the basement membrane by epidermis. Epidermis is just what attached epithelium cell to basement membrane. Okay. We have done that under tissues. When I deal with physiology, when I teach tissue, we know the difference between epidermis and desmosomes. Desmosomes connect cells, same cells of same tissue together. But when I'm talking of different one, it's epidermis that connects it. I'm just going to talk about this one when I'm dealing with tissue in physiology. Okay. Basal layer is made up of stem cells. You need to know that stem cells are cells that produce new cells. Okay. Stem cells, they can differentiate. Okay, so basal layer is made up of stem cells. Stem cells differentiate later, so we'll still talk about that one. Now, fourth, it attached to basement membrane by desmosome. I've said that earlier. Now, it has epidermal ridges that lies close to the dermal papilla. Now, I don't want to talk about the epidermal ridges now, because I think I'll still talk about that later. But let me just quickly mention it. The dermis and epidermis, they are like interlocked. Like this, okay. So it's not like they are like this. If it's like this, they will rub off each other, and then we'll be having a lot of blisters, a lot of wears and torn, but they are like this. So the epidermis and dermis cannot separate from each other like that. Between them will be basement membrane that is connecting them together. So they are like this. So there's this thing called epidermal ridges, which is like this. There's this another thing called dermal papilla. Okay, that connect the epidermis that connect the dermis to epidermis. The epidermal ridges connect the epidermis to dermis. Okay, so it's like a wave-like structure. Example of epidermal ridges is when we look at our fingernails. Okay, these are fingerprints. Is example of epidermal ridges. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about it if I say I have much time to talk about it. So, two cells apart from keratinocytes are present in the stratum basale, which are Merkel cell and melanocyte. Okay, Merkel cell and melanocyte. If you want to remember this, there's a Prime Minister of Germany called Angela Merkel. Okay, so is the Prime Minister of she's the Prime Minister of Germany. So you can use her name to remember. So Merkel cells and melanocyte. Okay, so those are the other two cells that are present in the basal. We have keratinocyte, Merkel cell, and what? Melanocyte. Note, we are moving from inner to outer layer. You can see Merkel cell, please, and melanocyte. Okay.